You know, one of the big arguments against the abolition of slavery in the 1860s is that, you know, when Europeans colonized Africa, they hadn't discovered the wheel. There's no two-story buildings. There's no writing. There's no written language. Missionaries had to go to Africa in the last century and invent it for the African people because there's no recorded history. They didn't have writing.
So Egypt is not in Africa.
Well, Egypt is a different race. The Egyptians were not black.
Okay, but you said when they went to Africa, so I just want to...
The interior of Africa in the late 19th century, scrambled for Africa.
So we're now knocking Egypt out of Africa.
Well, Egypt is part of northern Africa, sub-Saharan
Africa. You said Africa, so I'm not trying to get a gotcha. I'm just responding. You're saying Africa.
Sure. Yeah.
It's in Africa. It's Egypt. It's kind of ridiculous to say there was no written language. Well, so I'm just trying to get you to
sure.
You know,
Egyptians are not Africans.
If I'm not pushing back, the internet will. So
Egyptians are not racial Africans. When I say African, I'm saying sub-Saharan Africans.
Sub-Saharan, okay.
Black people that. Yeah.
Candace Owens, you have the name of a queen, but the mind of a fool. How the hell are you successful, with all due respect? Huh? How are you going to invite this self-proclaimed racist, a guy who literally glazes over the mustache man, and just let him talk nonsense without doing your due diligence? Do your research. Be prepared, because he's going to lie, and his fans are eating this up. Well, I'm not going to let that happen. First statement, the wheel. The wheel was first domesticated or created by a culture in Eurasia who first domesticated the horse. Yeah, they were on plains, on steppe lands, okay? They had the animals to use the wheel. They had the means, the landscape, the geography for it, yeah? In most parts of Africa, the wheel was useless. Yeah, there was many vegetation, the soil, many factors which was the reason why the wheel didn't spread. Most cultures adopted the wheel. Not every single culture just created the wheel out of nothing, okay? The wheel, ancient Egyptians didn't have the wheel originally. The Hyksos gave the Egyptians the wheel, or they adopted it from them. Then they innovated on it. Then the Kushites also adopted the wheel. So black people did have the wheel, possibly the Axumites. Then in Central Africa, in Western Africa, you see rock art, which shows the wheel. Okay? Now, after all that period, when the wheel was introduced into parts of sub-Saharan Africa, it was used. What you're looking at here is from the Congo Kingdom, an illustration of an account which mentions the wheel being used to transport a religious vessel, I believe. Yeah? There's also this one from the Akan people. This is from the Asante Empire, I believe, specifically. Yeah? Then there's also this from ancient Kush. Yeah? The Nubians had the wheel. They used chariots. Yeah? Then, like I said, in Central Africa, Western Africa, they had the wheel, but it stopped spreading after a certain point because once you go deeper into sub-Saharan Africa, the landscape, the geography just means that the wheel became useless. Yeah? People preferred horseback instead of chariots. Then it goes on to say, sub-Saharan Africa did not have two-story buildings. I still don't get where this comes from. The archaeology, the historical accounts, the historical illustrations debunk that. What is this, bro? This is from Sudan. Yeah, this was a fortress from Sudan. Okay, this is more than one story, as you can see clearly. I'll show you an illustration from Ghana, going back to the Akan people. This is a pre-colonial illustration of Akan apartments. Yeah, this scene you're seeing here is when the British came to the Akan people. This is after the kingdom was on the decline. Yeah, and they came to assert their dominance. The people came out and said, we don't want that. Yeah, I don't know what happened after that, but these are the illustrations Europeans made showing the architecture that was there before. Another example is from the Central African region. This is the Palace of Wadai, yeah, of the Wadai Empire. This, as you can see, is over one story. There are many examples I can go through, bro. I've actually gone through others in other videos, so there's no need to go further in this, is there? He goes on to talk about, oh, there was no writing. Again, I've debunked this many times. The Kushites had Meroitic, yeah? Meroitic was used to write their Nilo-Saharan language, which was Meroitic, yeah? Of course, the Egyptian hieroglyphics influenced the Kushites to create the Meroitic script. No doubt about that. But hieroglyphics also influenced the Phoenicians, and the Phoenicians influenced the Greeks to create the Hellenistic Greek script, which influenced Latin, yeah? There's very few places on earth where you find writing without outside influence, yeah? His people, yeah? Because I think Fuentes is Southern European, right? The Spanish, you know what I mean? The Iberians, they did not have their own original written language, and there's no problem with that. They had to adopt it from the Romans, who gave them the Latin script. Same goes for the Celtics. Same goes for the Anglo-Saxons. Same goes for other Germanic people. There's no problem with that. But when it comes to Africa, it's a problem. Why exactly? Huh? We also have in Eastern Africa the Ge'ez script, which was, again, created in Eastern Africa. Yes, it derives from Sabaean, but it was created in Eastern Africa by Ethio-Semitic people in Ethiopia. Now, examples of written historical accounts would be this. What you're looking at here is called the Book of the Bornu Wars. It dates back to the 16th century when the Bornu Empire, I believe, was under my Idris Aluma. This accounts for the battles and the wars which were happening in the Bornu region. You find many examples all over Africa, Western Africa, Central Africa, the Swahili coast, Ethiopia, the Somali. They all had writing, okay? Some adopted the Arabic script, creating what's called the Ajami scripts to write in their own languages. Many wrote it in Arabic. There's no problem with that because many historical accounts that we know of from certain parts of Europe were written in Latin. Is that a problem? Some of them were written in other languages, like French, I believe, in Anglo-Saxon England. Is that a problem? No, it shouldn't be a problem because that's what they had. They had to adopt, then they had to innovate, which is what they did in Africa as well. So again, that's debunked. As for his comments about Egypt, listen, Egypt was a diverse region. Yeah, it's a very complicated history. Yeah, they had Natufian ancestry, Levantine ancestry. They had native North African ancestry. But if you look deep into their heritage as well, they have Black African ancestry as well. Yes, some Egyptians may not like that, but it's true. It's the truth. Look at the DNA. Look at Upper Egyptians today. Oh, you may say, oh, those people are Nubian. No, they're not just Nubian. Some of those people are Egyptian. They're native Egyptian. Yeah, just because they're darker, they're Nubian. That's not the case. Yeah, there is accounts also of Egyptians marrying Nubians. That's historical. Yeah, there's pharaohs who were marrying Egyptian wives with tattoos and stuff. I'll make YouTube videos on this covering this just to clarify. But yeah, Egypt, you find the various skin tones. Yeah, in the north they're lighter, they're olive skinned. In the south they're browner, darker skinned. That's Egypt. Egypt is part of Africa. Egyptians are African. Yeah, they're Afro-Asiatic. They're linguistically and partly genetically related to East Africans and also people further south. That's history, bro. That's history. That's all Candace Owens had to say. That's all Candace Owens had to say to debunk him. But now he's using all that nonsense to justify, oh, yeah, this is why the people were like, oh, slavery shouldn't have been abolished and stuff. I'm like, God have mercy. That is atrocious. Atrocious. And this dude has followers. My God have mercy, bro. He said, he said a load of nothing that can be debunked easily. Yeah, this is why you need to know your history as people of the African continent. Yeah, so check out my YouTube channel, man. I've got more information. I go more in depth there. Yeah, don't be fooled by nonsense like this. Really got me triggered, bro. Really got me triggered.